Hey, welcome to the Hills Have Nerds, episode 3. We're glad to be back. We finally were able to sit back down again. We got Lee with us.
Hello.
We got Cody with us.
Hello.
We got Aaron.
Howdy ho.
And me, Josh. And today we're going to talk about JRPGs. It's going to be our main focus. Japanese RPGs, mainly video games, pretty much only video games. And what that means and how that differentiates from Western RPGs and the history of those and just a list of our favorite ones we like to play and so on and so forth. But before we get into that, what have we been up to? What media are we consuming? What are we playing? What are we watching? Aaron?
Oh, we're starting with me? Okay.
Yeah, we'll start with
All
you.
right.
I just looked up and made eye contact with you first.
I mean, media consuming. I just watched the Mario Brothers movie.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Loved every bit of it. They're not spoilers, but Jack Black has a song in it.
I've heard
That's fantastic. There are tons of references, great music cues. Like Mario's dad is Talon from Zelda, which is a Mario reference within the Zelda universe. It's Malon's dad from
Yeah, the guy
Lon Ranch.
It looks like he's drunk and hanging out in the...
Yeah.
He is technically drunk in Ocarina of Time. He's passed out behind the castle from drinking Lon milk.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Which
That'll do it.
What is Lon milk?
It's the milk from the Lon Ranch.
Small
And-
liquor.
Well,
I know Jack all
Well, in Majora's
Zelda. I
Mask,
don't play
yeah.
Zelda games.
in Majora's Mask, there's actually a Lon bar where everybody goes to drink Lon milk.
Only at night. It's only open at night, though.
Yeah, but it's only open at night.
Well, as most great bars are.
And kids aren't allowed in there.
Well, as most great bars are.
You have to get the different masks to go in. It's pretty
Okay.
But
Anyway.
that's the media, and then video games. I have the most recent new type game I've been playing has been Mortal Shell. I just picked it up, and it's a Souls-like game where you play a spirit. You look like a clone gone wrong. It's like a blank clone.
I think he showed me, reminded me of the white zombie homunculus from Full Metal.
Yeah, from Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
Yeah, you look like this weird white thing, and you possess dead bodies. So you're possessing mortal, and you get a mortal shell, and depending on what body you have, depending on what health and stamina you have, it's pretty cool. It's an interesting concept, but it's a Souls-like game. It's really hard, and you constantly die.
It was on Game Pass, so...
Oh, really? It was $7 on Steam, and
Dang.
apparently I put it on my wish list at one time, and it told me, and I was like, hey, what the heck?
Yeah.
So that's it.
Lee?
I've been watching Perry Mason. Oh, that show's so good, dude. The new one. The new one on HBO.
There's a new Perry Mason?
Yes, there is, and it's so good.
I remember Perry Mason from reruns back in the day, right? Now, am I remembering right? Like that was a thing.
Oh yeah, it's an old.
It's
show.
like an old detective show or cop procedural.
Yep.
Procedural. Or...
Yeah, it's wonderful. I've been watching that with my wife. It's nothing really nerdy I've been watching, but I've been playing a lot of Zelda clones because I know that not Breath of the Wild 2, but Tears of the Kingdom is coming up, and so I'm trying to get some info together on a bunch of different Zelda clones, and so I've been playing some stuff that's been really a wonderful surprise, like Golden Axe Warrior. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Let's see, what else?
What is Golden Axe Warrior?
Golden Axe Warrior is it's basically Zelda with
It's a
Golden
Zelda
Axe
clone?
characters. Yeah, it's
Zelda
just,
clone.
it's just a Zelda
Okay.
clone.
It looks like High Blood.
I don't know what Golden Axe is.
I've been playing Rambo for the NES, which is another. It's like Zelda 2.
Really?
Yeah, it's so weird.
I never played Rambo.
What
So.
was that 007 game you played?
That
too?
007 game for the Game Boy it's like Link's Awakening. There's so many games that copied Zelda, and there's some really good ones
Is it
out
like
there.
a James Bond Zelda?
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
How do they do that?
Oh,
How does it combine?
dude, I don't know how it looks like Link's Awakening, except you're James Bond, and you
Oh, okay.
kung fu people and shoot people.
So it's
rather
like
than-
top down,
You can only-
2D
You
James
can only
Bond.
shoot
Okay.
people when you're at full health, and
Otherwise, you have to beat them senseless with a gun.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. So I've been playing that sort of stuff lately, and then still working on Octopath Traveler 2. One day I'll finish it. We'll see.
I've seen a ton of people playing that game. It looks really good.
It's wonderful.
I have a few games like that. I'm like, eventually I'll finish them.
Cody?
Well, I've not really been watching anything recently. I mean, the main thing I've been on is the RE4 remake.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty hot and heavy. I'm
Yeah.
working on that platinum. I think I've only got 6 trophies left.
So we've been trying to get you to play Phasmophobia with us. Like, no, I'm doing Resident Evil.
Yeah, Cody's been at that like a college degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how it goes with you guys. I'm doing this.
Well, I had to go kill a bunch of random Spaniards with a knife. It's fine.
Me too.
Get in the comments. This is where we get our hate comments from.
Exactly. Well, that's pretty well all I've been doing.
It's just only the Resident. You were playing the Fire Emblem stuff too.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Engage. Yeah, I still need to finish it. I'm not. Resident Evil came out and I dropped it.
Yep, I played Fire Emblem Engage was a filler for me until something else came out.
I mean, it's starting to warm up outside, so I mean, I'm spending a little more time outside.
Out to the barn.
I'm trying to spend as little time outside as possible, but stuff around my house continues to try to just collapse. And so I'm having to spend time outside.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
But in the meantime, first I was just watching. I wanted to mention it because it kind of ties into last episode we did when we talked about tabletop RPGs. It's the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
It's so good.
Right.
I haven't seen it.
It's so good.
I want to
You
watch
still
it.
haven't?
No, we didn't get a chance.
It is.
So
it's
fun.
great.
So
it is
fun.
absolutely fantastic. I'd put it up there with mid-tier Marvel movies.
Yeah.
It's not going to win best movie of all time, right? It's not. It's not going to win any Oscars. But
Sometimes that's the best movie.
Oh,
Really.
no, it's a great popcorn movie. It was great to sit down and watch. The kids loved it. It had so many references in it for people who are, Forgotten Realms lore fans and who really get into the D&D lore and backstory history. It was absolutely awesome.
So I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, you don't really need
And
to.
you don't have to, and you really don't have to.
I still want to watch it.
For you, it'll be a fun adventure movie.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
It's so much better than the 2000s one.
If I can watch the One Piece movie and enjoy it, you can watch this and enjoy it.
I'm sure I can watch it and enjoy it.
It was great.
Jonathan! This is the best part, man. It's the Jonathan! It's so good.
No spoilers.
Yeah,
When,
I wouldn't. It's wonderful.
I want to spoiler it at some point. Well, you got to watch it before we do the next episode.
So
Yeah.
fun.
No, but as far as playing, I mean, the only game that I'm really putting a lot of time into is World of Warcraft. I'm putting a ton of time into it. WoW. A little less lately because it's kind of that winding down portion of this content patch. But the new content patch is about to come out, 10.1, and it looks so good. But to fill that in, I'm back on my Pokemon hyper fixation.
Yeah.
So I've been going hard into Scarlet and Violet and got the Pokedex filled in Violet. Been doing a bunch of raids, shiny hunting.
Again, Typhlosion got announced.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you guys got your Samurats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the time, whenever we upload this, Typhlosion will have been gone and past. So there's no reason for us to be like, hey, Typhlosion's coming in April this. Don't forget about that.
Right.
But yeah, I've been getting into that, waiting on the DLC for that stuff. So that's pretty much it.
Cool.
All right, so we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, and that is JRPGs. And I'm going to toss it over to Cody because he knows so much more about this than I do. Him and Lee and Aaron know much more about this stuff than I'm not a big
you probably know the
RPG fanatic. I mean, I love role-playing games, but I'm not...
the
not
basis of
versed
these.
in
Because they're based off of tabletop RPGs.
I'm aware of Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I've played a ton of Final Fantasy games, but as far as like some of these deep dives, like I'm looking at this list you've got wrote down, and there are names on there I've never even heard of.
I found some awkward ones.
Didn't even know. So I'll toss it over to you and take it away, Cody. What we got?
All right. So our biggest one was Ultima and Wizardry. I wouldn't call them JRPGs. Because they're not. They're more Western style. They're entirely based off of tabletop RPGs, like D&D and stuff.
So what separates, like, what makes a JRPG versus a Western RPG? Is that something that's important now, or what?
At the time,
Yeah.
it
So
was
what
one of
is the
those-
time frame we're looking at for Ultima and Wizardry?
Ultima and Wizardry started in 81.
So we're starting from the beginning with 1981.
1981.
Not 1881.
1881.
No, before.
Don't want to make confused with 2081.
Yeah. No,
The
it's
Civil War was a brewing, and so were role-playing games.
on the Commodore 64.
Was that Commodore for real?
I don't know if the Ultima and the Wizardry was on Commodore. I'd have to go back and look and see, but I know
Some
they
kind
were
of
just
PC.
they were all PC
I'll look it
engines.
up.
but they were based entirely on D&D, essentially. You go through and basically roll your stats, create your character, and go through an adventure. And a lot of the times, people saying, it's a difficult game, they're dying in that first little dungeon before they get out and having to re-roll a character.
Yeah, I am not a fan of either of those types of games, or either of those, even the settings, because it's just the gameplay is so taxing and there's so much setup. I mean, it is like D&D. It's like you're basically rolling a character on a computer screen. If you're playing with a controller, oh my lord!
And I mean, you're playing by yourself at that point, so you lose the fun of playing with somebody else as well.
So I have the Ultima series. So it was
Apple II.
Yeah,
Apple II.
Ultima 1, the first Stage of Darkness, 1981.
Yeah.
Apple II, Atari 8-bit, the VIC 20.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of weird computers that you can get.
But Commodore 64, Commodore 128, MS-DOS, MX, FM Towns,
MSX, wow.
PC 98, Atari ST, Mac OS, Amiga, all that stuff.
It's been on everything.
The only reason I mention those is because there's about a 5-year gap. It's
the
just
Dark Ages.
Ultima and Wizardry. There's probably a few other Western RPGs. It's solely copying D&D.
So what makes them role playing games? Like what?
These it's literally rolling a character. It is D&D rules entirely. That is what they are.
Oh, you said they're tedious to play.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you have to roll a character, and then the game still tries to roll stuff for you as you play. But I mean, you still have to make decisions and click on the rolls.
The other one we talked about, it's something of JRPG, was Might and Magic.
Yeah,
the Might and Magic.
The original Might and Magic series came out.
I played the crap out of Might and Magic.
That's about the same as Ultima and Wizardry. It's just Ultima and Wizardry is a little more archaic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Might and Magic was very fantasy. You played your class. You got your class. You rolled your stats. You went through you started out in a maze, and you had to get through the maze and get outside the maze. And it was tough to get outside the maze because you ran into something that was just boom, you're dead.
Yeah. Dude, I liken this to when my dad would talk about making bows and arrows and playing cops and robbers. It's like people that play back in my day, I played Ultima and Wizardry. I'm like, that's rough.
Are we looking at like mud level of gameplay?
No, they're not that bad on graphics. They're graphical and everything. It's just they were, systems at the time couldn't handle a whole lot. So I mean, they were as basic as they could be.
Yeah, it's
there's you don't even really have a character model. It's first person a lot of the time, dungeon crawling.
Who produced these? Do we know? Was it a gaming company or looks like Richard Garriott?
There's
Ultima. That looks cool.
It
looks neat.
That's not the newer. That's the
newer one. That's not the old one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the old one's.
But that was based off of the original.
But
that's a newfangled one.
It's pretty well just those two series running for about 5 years.
Okay.
And then we get Enix, a Japanese company, decides to make Dragon Quest. Pretty well, it's not the first turn-based RPG, which is what we refer to as a JRPG, and that's just mainly because that's the type of RPGs coming out of Japan at the time was turn-based. They were trying to do a easier system for people to understand, where it completely rolled everything for you. It created a character, gave you your level up, and rolled stats for you at the start. You have a static character every time you play.
Much more just mainline.
Now, Dragon Quest, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the one with the art that's very similar to Dragon Ball Z, Akira Toriyama.
He did the art for it.
Same guy.
Okay.
Yeah, same
Akira
guy.
Toriyama did the art for yeah. So that's what I remember. So if anybody's ever seen Dragon Quest and thought, oh, there's Dragon Ball Z characters, and then that was where I went because I knew Dragon Ball Z, and then I saw boxes for Dragon Quest. Yeah. There's still Dragon Quest stuff being released.
Dragon Quest 11 came out not long ago.
Yeah, I was going to say 12 or 13.
We're getting some teasers of 12 right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dragon Quest was the first one to come out. Well, first big one to come out. There was a couple other small ones.
First critical success.
It's the first critical success.
I don't know of one before it, honestly. If there is, it's one of those it's so obscure.
We looked around. I
looked and tried to find one, and Dragon Quest is the first one I could find. There might be another one.
It's kind of like people say Pong is one of the first games. Right. Just accept that.
Right.
Because there's a spaceship game. Yeah, but
the first one that people acknowledged was a thing that if you said Dragon Quest in a room full of people,
they knew.
A few people would know what you're talking about.
It was huge.
It didn't beat Dragon Quest in America. We got it as Dragon Warrior It didn't,
yeah.
It didn't pick up Dragon Quest until 8. But
Okay. Do we know why they made that change? Or?
No.
yeah,
Why
there
they make the
was
change?
Copyright problems.
yeah,
There's a board game I think called Dragon Quest, and
yeah.
I'm assuming it was a board game. I think it was a game called Dragon Quest here, so they couldn't use Dragon Quest. They called it Dragon Warrior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think that game has since been ceased.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the more you know.
and this one was made by Enix before Square and
Yeah.
Enix
For the
merged.
merge.
Right.
The great merge.
And Square would take note of them, and the next year would make Final Fantasy.
Well, yeah.
So Final Fantasy was the second one, even though everybody probably coins it as like the best RPG on the NES.
Now, just for people out there that may not know or have never heard of Final Fantasy, because that's a deep dive, right?
Yeah.
What is Final Fantasy?
What is
An
the
epic
Final Fantasy?
adventure where you take 4 adventurers, go gather 4 elements, and
Restore the 4 crystals and go fight Garland.
Now, I want to
Yeah,
name my character Sid. Would that be a problem? Is there any other is there any characters
In
there?
Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3, no.
Oh.
There's not. I think he was first in 4.
To my knowledge.
But, I mean, a lot of the characters in the first Final Fantasy didn't have names. Like,
Yeah.
your 4 main characters are just Warriors of Light. They
And then-
have no names.
Which is interesting.
Sorry, go ahead. You do it.
Well, I think it's weird that in Dragon Quest we actually get like Erdrick's descendant or
Yeah,
whatever.
but, like, Erdrick is the first Dragon Quest hero.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that it gives you in the game, but it might have been in the book. I can't remember.
Yep. And so you pick up Erdrick's armor and stuff along the way, but we don't get named characters in Final Fantasy, which is kind of weird. You think that they would have picked up on that, but I wonder if they were still kind of sticking to that whole like Ultima thing, where your character's named in Ultima.
Yeah, I think they wanted more of a
You put yourself
you
on
put
it.
yourself as the character, which is funny because Final Fantasy ends up going more into named protagonists, whereas Dragon Quest goes more into the nameless.
The luminary or whatever.
I found something about the names of the Final Fantasy characters.
In the first one,
It's as little known to most people. Now, this is a Reddit post, but this is fine. We'll talk about this. Little known to most people, the characters of the original Final Fantasy had names. This is FF1 for the NES, right?
yeah,
Final Fantasy Memory of Heroes is a book consisting of 3 short stories written by Umemura Takashi, each a retelling of one of the 3 first Final Fantasy games. The 4 Warriors of Light from the original Final Fantasy game are named in the novelization. So they probably, when it came out, they didn't, and then these novelizations came out and they kind of retconned back in. So
That makes sense.
the fighter's name is Zest, in Japanese Zesuto. He leads the Warriors of Light and bears the fire crystal. Thief's name is Sauber, and then that's...
What was the name of the book?
It is Final Fantasy Memory of Heroes.
interesting.
Yeah, so if you want the story of the first 3 Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy Memory of Heroes. And this is from 1, 2, 3 Memory of Heroes. Takashi Umemura. And when we post this, we'll put up show notes and make that.
Cool.
No,
Good to know.
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy has more to its development as well.
Oh my goodness, it was.
It was like
Yes, they
it was
did.
the saving grace of Square.
Final Fantasy was?
Yeah, Square was on the verge of bankruptcy, and Sakaguchi, who was the developer at the time, was actually said that if his next game didn't succeed, he was going back to school and he's going to quit being a game developer.
That's why it's called the Final Fantasy.
Really? That's cool.
That was one thing. That's why it came out as the Final Fantasy. But Sakaguchi did later go back in an interview and say that Final wasn't that big of a deal at the time.
Oh, really?
His exact words were, "We could have used any F word," and I think he needs to work that a little better. But
Each one that
I don't feel like any F word would have worked.
I've played that
It's a
other
one
game,
different game. Yeah.
and we're not going to do an episode about that. But you can find it if you Google it.
but it was. They said that I can't remember the exact reason. But it was the way that the FF was abbreviated and the way it was pronounced for them. They wanted it to be abbreviated like that, so they wanted a double F like that. So Final was honestly for him and Square really at the time.
Okay.
But same year though, we got Phantasy Star and the start of the Shin Megami Tensei series.
I don't know. I know Phantasy Stars. I played Phantasy Star Online. This is the only experience I have with Phantasy Star. What was the other one?
Shin Megami Tensei. It's a more religious based. Like, it pulls from almost every religion as enemies,
Pokemon with demons.
essentially.
Okay.
But it started out as Digital Devil story, Megami Tensei, and it evolved into the Shin Megami Tensei series, and then Persona kind of fell off of it and became its own thing.
So I know this is going back, but I just wanted to, I looked it up. The reason that Dragon Quest wasn't released as Dragon Quest in America in 81 was because there was a tabletop RPG called Dragon Quest. But in 87, it was purchased by TSR, who was the publishers of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Hey, we talked about TSR in episode 2. Go back and listen to the story of TSR.
Well, I feel like this was a good branch off of that. Because, I mean, all these games are basing their entire combat system off D&D.
And
Final Fantasy, especially because it uses the same spell system. You get so many spells per day. As you level up, you can get more of the lower cost spells per day, and you gain, I think it was up to level 6 spells in this, and you can only have like one level 6 spell a day. And you have to actually go and rest at an inn to get your spells back.
And apparently, it said that Enix, the CEOs for Enix, decided that it wasn't worth the chance of a lawsuit. That's why they didn't change the name.
Yeah, it's fair enough at the time.
Every other game was changing its name, so
You gonna learn today, people. We're teaching you stuff. Things.
Yeah, but
The more you know.
I know nothing.
dude, Final Fantasy was like so much more complicated story wise than and much more mature, I guess, than Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
First Dragon Quest is like go save the princess.
Well, Dragon Quest was an anime style.
I mean, it's a banger. I like it. But,
It was also very, very grindy.
oh yeah,
Which I guess Final
like
Fantasy
grinding mode.
is still anime style, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess I always related Dragon Quest closer to an anime style.
I think because it's got an anime artist.
Because it's an actual anime artist. It's probably why.
But the JRPGs also give us Sweet Home in 89, which is it's a horror-based RPG that you go in and try to. I can't remember what it was based off of a movie in Japan. Do you remember what the name of the movie was?
nope. Actually, the movie was called Sweet Home.
Was it?
I'm pretty
Probably Sweet
confident.
Home.
I think it,
I've heard of Sweet Home. I don't think I've heard of it in a gaming sense, but we're gonna go. You keep talking. We're gonna go to the internet for this.
and the only reason I bring it up because it's a JRPG. It's average for a JRPG. Like it's got all the same stuff. It's pretty similar to Mother that came out the same year in its combat style.
But I mean, there's not that many horror RPGs, and that's one.
No, there's not.
I can't think of one before that.
Yeah, the Sweet Home was based on the Japanese horror film of the same name,
Okay.
and tells the story of a team of 5 filmmakers exploring an old mansion in search of a precious frescoes.
Frescoes, paintings.
Oh, okay.
You're doing the same thing in the game, just going around trying to take pictures of the frescoes.
Yeah.
Now, there is currently a Korean drama on Netflix called Sweet Home, and
Based
it's a
on
horror.
the cartoon. It's based on a webcomic.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've actually watched it.
Are
It's interesting.
Now, are all these things called Sweet Home all together? Is like the Korean drama on
The Korean
Netflix?
one,
Is
it's
that
different.
separate?
It's separate.
Okay, it just has the same name.
But I bring up
This is confusing.
very. But I bring up Sweet Home specifically because it's cited as a inspiration for Resident Evil as well.
Okay.
So I can't remember his name, the guy that done Resident Evil.
Have you heard the story about the sign outside? Apparently, there's a sign outside of the house. I've never beat Sweet Home, but I played quite a bit of it. There's a sign outside, supposedly, that said, "This is a house of Resident Evil."
Oh yeah,
So-
that was there.
He's the evil resident?
Yeah,
Is it
Or is it like late
Shinji Mikami?
yeah, Mikami.
Shinji Mikami?
Yeah.
Creator of
He-
Resident Evil?
Yeah, he cites Sweet Home as an inspiration for Resident Evil. It was the basis of the mansion in the first one.
Yes, he's the evil resident.
Yeah, he is.
God, that show was awful. For anyone that doesn't know, there's a Resident Evil show on Netflix, right? It's on Netflix.
let's
You
not
don't need to watch it.
Well, let's not get into that.
Don't encourage them. Write a letter and tell them you didn't like it. God, it's so bad.
actually voted down.
There are some things that I'll be like, if you took the name off of it, it's still at least a good whatever.
Yeah.
If you took the name off that show, it still wasn't a good show.
So bad.
Yeah, that's me. It's bad.
And so where you have like video game adaptations like The Last of Us.
I'm
Where you have The Last of Us, and then compare it to the video game adaptation or the show adaptation of a video game like the Resident Evil show.
Yeah.
And it's amateur hour with the Resident Evil show compared to The Last.
the biggest problem, and I'm so glad that they've done that with The Last of Us. The biggest problem is now every director wants to do their own vision with everything and not stick to the material. That's what's going on with The Witcher, but that's another thing.
We're derailing.
We're going to talk about video game
We'll do adaptations later.
Next episode, what burns me up?
So there's Sweet Home, dude. I made repros of that like crazy.
Oh yeah.
I made so many repros. I made cash money.
So many legal copies.
I did.
That's not a Nintendo IP, right? So we're not.
Not technically.
Because I can hear the ICB like whistling.
That's what it was. But like, yeah, it was. I made so much money off that. But dude, every time I test one, there's the beginning song in the game is terrifying.
Is it?
For an NES game, honestly, it was pretty creepy.
Well, let's pull that.
You should check it out on my YouTube video.
We're gonna pull it up right here because it worked out well.
Pixely.
I think it's the Manor or whatever.
Sweet Home Manor.
Alabama.
I'm getting a lot of Sweet Home Alabama.
Or, of course, lobby music. Sweet Home lobby music.
All right, let's see what we can pull up here.
It's horrendous. It scares the crap out of me. To be fair, though, the other name on your list there also freaks me out.
Mother.
Is this it right here?
Is that the lobby thing? Yeah, click that.
Just
to hear it real quick. Just hear that commercial.
Yeah, we got a commercial.
Dude, like
After this commercial break.
Like and subscribe so we can get YouTube
for Sweet Home.
Yeah, it's hard. It's so freaking hard.
Very average for an RPG. Like it doesn't bring anything new to the table, but
except horror.
Yeah, it does add a horror aspect.
All right, so this is the intro lobby music for Sweet Home.
Turn off, Josh. Josh, turn it off.
Terrifying.
It makes me sweat, dude. Like, that game's really, really, really freaking hard, too.
Yeah. And I mean, it has permadeath on your characters. If they die, they die.
They're done, son.
I mean, that was new for an RPG. I mean, honestly, that was kind of new for games at the time. But I don't know if Fire Emblem had been out at the time.
So what do you mean if they die, they die? Like you start over completely, or you have to make a new character?
No, they're gone. If they die, they're just. It's like
everybody has utility. Like, so you have a flashlight, right?
Yeah.
If you die, we have to find like matches.
Okay.
And your character is just gone, and you can eventually lose enough people that some of the battles are impossible to complete.
Okay, so if your party of 4, when they die, and then if everybody's in, it's reset. You go back.
Yeah.
If they die in the game, they die in real life.
And you find someone with their name and kill them.
It's not just in the battles either. Like you can be walking over boards, and the boards will break through, and your character will be like, "Help me!" And if you don't hit a button, like quick time event, basically, in time to get them, they die.
Wow, is this the earliest quick time event?
Possibly.
Dude, is it? Yeah, I mean, like that could be.
And there's like chandeliers that'll fall on your characters and everything. Like it's
so cool.
That's pretty cool.
But the gameplay still kind of average.
It's for the time. It is really cool. It is.
All right. So moving on from Sweet Home.
Yeah. Mother came out the same year.
Also creepy.
Now no one knows what Mother is, right?
No
one's ever played Mother or Earthbound.
It is a little more obscure. Well, not as Sweet Home, really, but especially since
like Mother's pretty popular, right?
Oh, it is.
Because we're talking that's Earthbound.
Yeah,
right?
It became more popular after Melee when Ness was added in.
Yeah,
after the first Smash because he was in the first one.
Yeah,
no.
I was like, who's this guy?
Yeah, because it was like, he popped in. I was like, I don't know who that is. The kid with a bat.
It's saying the first. I guess that's technically true. The first example of quick time events with Dragon's Lair in '83.
Yeah. So dang!
Technically, Dragon's Lair was '83. But
didn't even think about it.
I'd forgot about it.
Yeah, I didn't think about Dragon's Lair.
So Mother in Japan or Earthbound here.
Yeah, well, that's Mother 1. Earthbound here is Mother 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't even know that. I'm sorry. Everyone ignore everything.
We call it Earthbound Beginnings, is what Nintendo kind of retconned it.
Okay. So this was the original Mother.
Yes, and it was on NES.
And it's creepy. I think it's a creepy game, dude.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of creepy undertones to Earthbound as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
There's some.
About the villain being a fetus? What?
Spoilers. Dude, the end of I started talking about the end of Mother, but it's also creepy.
The ending
Did you guys beat it?
The first one, no.
Dude, it's
the first Mother. I haven't played it.
It's a 30-year-old game. We can talk about the ends and
kinda like,
outs.
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost like an alien fetus is what you're fighting.
I mean, that's
Spoiler
real.
alert.
Yeah.
It's unnerving, dude. And it's like, oh god, it's a weird game. I loved it, but it was friggin' weird. It kind of like it's got that Evangelion sort of thing where it just sticks with you, and it's like
Some of the best RPGs are the weird ones.
yeah.
I think you get a lot of it. You get a lot of that out of
Evangelion, you mean you don't understand it at all?
But I still like it.
I don't know.
But it's cool to watch giant robots fight.
It screwed me up. So.
There's definitely no undertones to this. There's no deeper meaning than robots fighting, and that's all I need to get.
Yes,
I don't feel like having an existential crisis today. Thank you.
If you come out of that show with that mentality, it makes it a better show without a doubt.
I envy you.
There's too much subliminal messages in media nowadays. That's why I like Evangelion. Just a good show.
It's simple.
It's like I like a good revenge story about a man and a fish. Like no big deal.
Just a man and a fish. No frou-frou symbolism.
Oh gosh.
All right, so Mother, that's the basis for a very beloved game, at least for me. Earthbound, one of my first RPGs. And then, so moving on from Mother,
I would say after that is whenever you start getting into the golden years of the turn-based RPGs, really.
Okay.
This is when they start flooding the market with
They start flooding them, but honestly, they start flooding it with really good stuff.
I didn't say it was bad. I just said they flooded the market.
And like again, leading the way into basically the 90s, because I didn't find like a notable RPG that came out in the year 90, but in 91 we got Final Fantasy IV, which is a lot of people.
I think any of the Final Fantasy.
Yeah, a lot of people will argue that 4 is like one of the best in general.
I feel like
Sure to get some character depth.
Yeah, that was when they actually started doing like character backstories and like connectivity between characters and everything.
And this is when I was looking up stuff for a little bit of prep for the show. One of the distinctions that I just kept coming up to, or kept coming up in what I'd read between a JRPG and a Western RPG is that focus on storytelling as your primary play medium, and the dialogue and the character depth you're getting, whereas in a Western RPG you're more combat focused, you're more like you're getting a complex storyline, but you're not getting it through dialogue, you're getting it through interaction with the game and gameplay and stuff like that. But JRPGs, and I don't know if that's the case now, but at least through the 90s and the early Final Fantasies, to me, like you got it through dialogue and dialogue.
Yeah. There's a lot of dialogue on a lot of them like that. I would argue that now it's not as bad for Western RPGs. There's more dialogue in them, and JRPGs have stepped up a little bit more into the combat and interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, JRPGs, and I feel like it's in every genre now. There's such a muddle of bits and
everything's
pieces
coming
of
together.
everything.
Yeah.
That's why it's like I'm not entirely sure that JRPG is really a good term for them anymore.
Oh
Yeah.
Because like what you said earlier,
Like aesthetically. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say a lot of people associate things with the term JRPG. Like some people associate turn-based combat with JRPG, and that's not the case. It's just it's the
not
systems.
Like Secret of Mana, Kingdom Hearts is a JRPG, really.
That's weird to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't think that's a JRPG,
But it is.
but it is.
Yeah,
I
there's,
see.
The Tales of games are JRPGs.
Tales of Symphonia.
They bleed in JRPG.
Like aesthetically, like
Yes.
when you look at something and you can see like the design, there are like certain distinctive design
Anime.
choices that are made.
Yeah.
Big Eyes. What was the anime role playing game we talked about?
Oh,
Big Eyes, Small Mouths. It was BESM. Was one of the, was a role playing system we talked about last episode. It was Big Eyes, Small Mouth.
Oh, really?
And it's an anime
it's anime
role playing system. Yeah. But that kind of stuff.
I thought that was just like a clever observation or something.
No, it was called Big Eyes, Small Mouth was that system. But anyway, yeah. So to me, like the distinctive aesthetic choices.
I would say it's more aesthetic choices anymore than anything. But I mean, even in the 90s, it was showing up as aesthetic choices. So.
You get Western RPGs that are in that same art style now. Like there's so much bleed over.
Yeah. That's what I say. And you really need to boil them down to like turn-based, tactical action.
Mm-hmm.
Just because all of those genres are just wide enough to do their own anymore.
Do you think it has something to do with like the difference we had in translation and how long it took and such? as well, because now it's like everything just goes pop and we pop it all out
Oh,
at
yeah,
once.
simultaneous release.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
Whereas like
possibility.
we're looking at Japan and going, oh baby, what's coming next? You know?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So the '90s being the golden year with Final Fantasy IV leading us out. Then Sega actually had Lunar Silver Star come out in '92.
That
Is this-
successful company, Sega.
I don't
Is this
know
for the
that
Genesis?
it was for the Sega CD. I don't know if I can't remember the company that made it.
I don't either.
It may not have been
Sega
Sega.
CD was
produced.
1992.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually weird to think about. We got Final Fantasy in '87, then 5 years later we have Lunar Silver Star. What a jump!
Yeah, and I mean Lunar is one of those. You can see some holdback in it, like just from the content or the system capabilities. Like-
What's the overarching story of Lunar? 'Cause that's something you've been playing
It was
recently,
Game Arts.
too.
Game Arts.
Really?
Game Arts actually did it.
Yeah, it's one that one's one I just recently beat.
I've never played Lunar. Had never heard of it until you were talking about you were playing it and you showed me it,
stream.
the collector's pack or whatever that was down there.
It's a there's a guy. Well, I say guy, but typical JRPGs. He's 14 ish, but he is growing up in this village. Wants to go out and become a dragon master. The previous dragon master done all this, save the world. Like he looked up to this guy, and he wants to go out and meet all the dragons, gain the power, save the world. But typical adventure type stuff. It evolves more beyond that, but and to say much beyond that, like it would be spoiling what honestly is a really good game.
30-year-old game. We can spoil it.
It's good.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still you have never played it,
And I'm not going to.
but there's some
It's a
people who haven't,
30-year-old
and they
game.
might go play it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Unless
they
you
have had
spoil
30
it.
years. If you're going to play a 30-year-old game, you getting the ending spoiled for you should not make a difference whether you're going to play it or not.
Does for me.
Well, I hate that for you, you fickle bitch.
Well,
There's my one for the show.
but it evolves more than just being the dragon master. Like he goes out and like you see all the characters that actually traveled with the dragon master come out and be like, well, here's all these other things going off. Like again, you have political statements going, there's this one side of people that's been left over here to rot by themselves because this original set didn't like them, and they're lashing out against them. But it also turns into everybody kind of hates each other for no reason.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, that's weird, man, because it's like that much in 1 year's difference. That's a much more mature story.
yeah,
From
and I mean,
4
it's,
to Silver Star.
and it's presented again anime style.
I feel like these RPGs have been such a powerful medium. For, we joke about political commentary and all that stuff in games, but they're a powerful medium for that kind of commentary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the political commentary in them makes for some of the better stories.
Yeah, the socio-political commentary.
Well, it's that power of the allegory, man. It's like all it takes. If you can win the fight, you can win the argument before somebody realizes there's an argument.
Yeah.
So if you take it out of the heat of actual things going on, put it in a video game, people play it, then they go, "Oh snap!"
Yeah.
They have a revelation.
It's a good way to show the broader side of both stories in something. Lunar is one of those, from the capabilities of the system, like you start getting a lot of the bosses are just beat sticks. They just have high health. You just go in and sit there and beat on them. Your characters, there's like 2 ways you can play the game. There's not really any kind of customization.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still,
Strategy is stay alive.
yeah. But it's one of
Heal when
those.
you're low.
It's one of those, like, everything plays out so well that you don't really care. It doesn't hurt the game any.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, from the time that it was out, it's honestly a little bit revolutionary for when it was.
Yeah, I wonder if that was the first, like, I don't know, what do you call them? Like AMV, or not AMV, but anime, like, cutscenes or whatever in video games or in RPGs.
In Lunar? Little
It
cutscenes in
had
there?
some. They added more in the PS1 release, but
Did Mother not have?
that Mother was NES.
Yeah, did Mother not have cutscenes? I think I keep getting like Mother and Earthbound Like Mother 3. I know Mother 3 had
I
something.
mean, they could have like in-game graphics cutscenes where like the pixels, the sprites, and everything move around. You have like the text box, but I think Lunar had actual like video come up and play, like changed from sprites to full drawn characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They were pretty rough looking in the original, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it also had avatars down in the box for the text speak, like the character avatars, like their heads when they spoke. I think it might have been one of the earlier ones of that. I don't know right off.
First in-game cutscene.
Well, you want animated cutscene because technically, because I just looked up.
was it
and-
Dragon's Lair?
No, it was like
Dragon's Lair.
first example of a complete story with a beginning and end told within a video game original cutscene is Donkey Kong. Because you had Donkey Kong coming out with a cutscene, and he jumped up to the top, and da 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 da.
Yeah.
But so
in the like the Mario throwing barrels Donkey
Yeah.
Kong?
yeah.
The beginning of that counts as
I
a
was thinking
cutscene.
Donkey
Oh,
Kong
but, you know,
Country.
Again, we're forgetting.
Holy crap.
Crank box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we're forgetting that Dragon's Lair
Yeah.
also had animated cutscenes, and it came
Oh yeah,
out.
it did because it done like the arcade ports and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dragon's Lair was pretty innovative.
I think what we're coming across is that Dragon's Lair really laid a lot of groundwork
Well, it
for a
was-
lot of stuff.
It was a very innovative game for its time. It's a different subject for a different time.
It is not a
but
very good game, but it was a very innovative
It
one.
was very well. Okay, it's not a great game.
You walk in an arcade, you see Donkey Kong. It's like, that's cool. But then you see Dragon's Lair beside it.
Yeah.
What the flip?
It looked beautiful. It had these great cutscenes, and it was pretty much just to pick your path.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
play
Yeah,
the
you
future,
just
baby.
go turn and
You
take the different
chose your
directions until you hit a wall.
Well, there were actions. There was like sometimes you had to jump
Swing
instead
the
of
sword.
swing the sword. But we're getting off topic. But yeah,
Which we will.
We always get off topic.
Okay, so we were on Lunar. What's after Lunar? So we're in 1992 with Lunar Silver Star.
Yeah.
And so post Lunar Silver Star is...
You get Lufia in '93. I
didn't
can't
really
speak
play
on Lufia. I didn't play it.
I have
But
no.
I
clue
just
what
know
Luffy
it is a
Really?
big series that people played. And I know Lufia 2 is supposed to be like fantastic.
It's
You
pretty
just play
graphics.
a guy in a shower with his loofah.
Yeah.
Lufia? I thought it was like a...
Level up. I now
It's a-
have learned.
it's a
misspelling of...
If it's a reference to One Piece, the main character
This is Luffy.
Lufia 2 is one of the longest games for the Super Nintendo. Check it out on my YouTube video.
Shameless Pixel Bro drop. Lufia
Welcome
and the
back,
Fortress. Glad to have you back. After your body didn't successfully kill you.
They tried.
So Lufia and the Fortress of Doom was the first release.
The Rise of
and
the Sinistrals.
That is Curse of the Sinistrals. That's the one that came out in 2010.
Oh, yeah. There's a different one. There's another
That's
one.
Lufia, Curse of the Sinistrals was 2010. It's the latest release in the Lufia line. First release was Lufia and the Fortress of Doom.
And the second one
Not
was
too
Rise of the Sinistrals.
Is that for Game Boy Advance?
No, it should be Super Nintendo for
There's
a Lufia 2
there's some for
port
Game
to
Boy Advance and Game Boy Color.
No, 2002. There was a Luffy.
Yeah, two's Rise of the Sinistrals, and then Curse of the Sinistrals, Ruins of Lore, The Legend Returns,
God,
and then
there's so many.
It's one of those, I never played it. I know it's a big series, so I wanted to at least mention it. Like, I can't really speak on it.
It's pretty.
Moving on.
Yeah. Moving on from there, we get 94.
Next
We
game.
Oh
had
my goodness, those both came out the same year.
two heavy hitters in Final Fantasy VI and Earthbound.
Wow.
Earthbound. We've mentioned that before
Yeah.
on this
Where have I heard that
We're in
from before?
Earthbound.
And that's...
Two
I
of the
like,
biggest.
I like Earthbound, but I mean, Final
Wow.
Fantasy VI is just... like it's one of my favorite RPGs in general.
Now, Final Fantasy VI. Is it there's something with
Well,
the Final
Is that
Fantasies
the
and their
American
release
release?
in US.
that is the
and-
Japanese release.
The Japanese
we get
release.
The American release in like 95, I think, is
Yeah,
Final
should
Fantasy
be.
3.
So it's usually
Okay,
it's
yeah.
usually the following year, but they changed the number for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
You know, there's like one dude doing translations at that time. There's like
Jesus.
one dude that did so many of the
Holy
translations.
crap.
I don't know why they were wrong.
Yeah, they were
You
like, it was one of those
spoony
like, sincerely like the, what's that called, like crunch? Like,
yeah.
he's probably one of the first examples of like video game crunch in the 90s or something.
Yeah, but I mean, we got Final Fantasy 4 as Final Fantasy 2, and I think it came out in like 92 here, and then
Okay.
6 came out as 3 in like 95. Everything was like a year late.
This is going to be a small digression. This is just what I remember from playing it was the release of Final Fantasy VI for the Nintendo DS. Do you guys remember that? And it was, the actual Final Fantasy 3.
Was it DS? I know they did one for the Game Boy Advance. They
released Final Fantasy 3 for the DS.
3 was on the DS.
And it was actually 3.
Yeah,
not
that was
6.
one with the Onion Knight, like the original
Yeah.
with the Onion Knight and all that. I played the crap out of it. So I was. This is one of my first.
I played it.
One of my first years of college, and I remember I would skip class. I would skip class and go to the lake and sit at the lake and play that and Diamond and Pearl and feed ducks for 12 hours.
Sounds like a good day.
Like, it got to the point the ducks would come to my car when I'd pull down. Because I'd go to Hardee's, I'd get a couple biscuits, and then just go sit with my DS and play that. And somehow I still graduated
Our
college.
keys
but-
money at work right here.
Yeah.
Hey, I still graduated.
But Final Fantasy VI is also one of those. It introduces the idea of different types of villains.
Yeah.
Because you have this one villain you're chasing the whole time, like the king of whatever country, and he's sitting there trying to do whatever, and the whole time he's got a jester with him. And you know this jester is bad, he's doing things, but he's not your problem at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Until he is. You make it to a point, and you fight with the king, and finally the jester, Kefka, comes out and is like, well, nothing's working out the way I want it, so he just kills the king. He's like, I'm going to go become a god now. And leaves. And I mean, Kefka is the type of villain that there is no reason for what he does.
He's one of the
He is destruction for destruction's sake.
Chaos.
Yeah, he's one of the first ones I know that succeeds in his plan.
Yeah, he actually destroys the world. Like, all the continents shatter, your people get scattered, you have to go find them. Like, everything is destroyed, and he literally becomes a god. And you go and kill him.
And you get that masterpiece, but Nobuo wants to.
Well, I mean,
Dancing mad.
Yeah.
That's the Final Fantasy story, is you start off punching bees in the face and then you're killing God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's every.
That's every Final Fantasy, apparently,
Yeah,
from
it's
that.
like at this point you find
Well, I mean, even the first one, you start off going to save the princess from whatever, and then come back, and then they're like, okay, well, this bridge opens up, and you go off into this other part of the continent, and turns out you're going to go out and just fight chaos,
Yeah.
which is just a giant demon.
Yeah.
It's these absolute wonderful power fantasies.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
The draw to RPGs for me is that. Like, fighting these crazy looking monsters, overcoming these insurmountable odds, leveling up, grinding, getting that dopamine hit of, I've just hit up another level. I just got a sword upgrade.
I
I've done
love
this. I've
watching
done
those
that.
numbers go up.
Yeah. Just filling bars.
Yeah.
So, hot take. With Final Fantasy VI, man, Kefka was not a very developed villain at all, right? He was just a crazy dude who woke up one day and was like, let's destroy stuff. He doesn't have any motivation, does he?
No, he is seriously destruction for destruction's sake, and I think that's one of those. Not every villain has to have a reason, because I mean, you run into people all the time in the real world. It's like the people that go out there and have murdered somebody. It's like, why? I just woke up and done it that day.
Yeah.
Kind of a sociopath. Yeah.
And I mean, you hate to say it, but that is a thing that happens. So it's like not every villain has to have a sob story or a relatable backstory.
They don't have to be sympathetic.
Right.
Like, not every villain has to be sympathetic. Not every handsome, charismatic villain needs a redemption arc. You know, like,
And I get it.
sometimes they're just bad guys. That
I
need to go
get the
down.
appeal of that because you don't want to see that there is evil. But I mean, there's people like Kefka.
Sometimes people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
And Lee's right. He's not a developed character.
No,
He's not.
But he's actually kind of bad storytelling, too. I'm just talking Aristotle and the Poetics.
Technically, yes.
Technically, yeah, like yes,
Aristotle
to a
suck
degree.
We still liked Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's a good game.
If Aristotle played Final Fantasy VI, he would have had a much different outlook on it.
Yeah, I get it, like, but it's one of those I kind of actually appreciate the fact because I mean it makes him an outlier, and I mean you can come into other characters that are poorly done like
Is he an
that.
outlier? Because Chaos was the same thing. He's just a bad guy for the sake of being a bad guy.
He gets a little bit more than that, really, and he was also like a demonic figure.
So X-Death is the same thing. Like, X-Death is just a bad guy for the sake of being a bad guy.
But you're also running into like Final Fantasy IV. You have the whole what was it?
Who was that last boss?
Forgettable.
It starts with a G.
He's forgettable because
the story sucks.
He had a big story built around him. He was a multifaceted character. You can't remember his name because he had too much stuff going on.
But I mean, after that, you start running into
Golbez.
Golbez,
yeah.
Yeah, he actually he had reasons.
What was it? Like, you wanted to get to the moon? I think that was
it's been a while since I played. But I mean, from that point on, you start running into every character pretty well has a...
Shame on me. I'm going to say it. Earthbound, I mean, even what's his name?
Was it?
Porky?
No,
Or Gygus?
Gygus is...
Gygus,
there's
yeah.
no real, like...
Well, you didn't...
It's just hero fights bad guy.
As much as we've talked about video games as a storytelling medium, and we've touched on that the past couple episodes we've done, I mean, or just when we talk about what we like and what we played, we're still looking at the early days of video games, right? In the early days of using these things for socio-political commentary, for storytelling, what do people enjoy? And so we can...
I'm setting you
We'll
up
kind
for
of
Final
touch on
Fantasy
a couple of these, and let's move on.
I mean, there's a lot in 7 on that, but
we're still seeing that with the evolution from Mother to Earthbound, or from the initial Final Fantasies to Final Fantasies. It's more. They're taking more risks with this stuff.
There's
For Lunar
still-
Silver's.
Final Fantasy 6 is more your party driven than villain driven.
Oh, and the backstories are wonderful for the main characters.
Yeah.
They have wonderful motivations.
Because
stories. It's great.
it's like one of your characters is Celeste, who starts out as a general for the king that you're trying to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there is a giant ballad that she sings. It's like an actual opera that she comes out, and it's like this giant emotional moment. So like 6 is more your party driven than the villain driven, which I enjoyed really well. But to each their own, honestly. But
I think we can critique the bad guys or the storytelling or whatever, and still love these games, right? I mean, I like to just smash a bad guy.
Yeah, it's like,
Like my bad guys don't have to be these multi-dimensional, multifaceted characters for me to enjoy telling. But comparing it to what we have now, which we'll move on. So in '95, what did we get?
95, we get the pinnacle of JRPGs for me.
Tales of Fantasia.
It did come out that year. You are correct.
Name that tree simulator.
It did come out that year. You are correct. But I was going to go with Chrono Trigger.
Oh, yeah, your guess.
I never played Chrono Trigger. I played the crap out of Chrono Cross.
Chrono Trigger's wonderful.
Chrono Trigger is...
It's pretty good.
It looked at the turn-based thing and was like, what if we can add stuff to this combat, make it a little bit better? And it's your party members they actually start gaining tech points with each other. So it's basically almost like a relationship as you fight. Mm-hmm. And as that levels up, they start learning combo abilities. So like if me and Aaron are in a party together a lot, we learn a combo ability. It takes both of our turns, but it's really powerful.
Yeah.
But now if me, Aaron, and Lee are in a party together for a long time, all 3 of us can do a triple tech. Takes all 3 of our turns. Again, really powerful. But the characters are also...
I thought you were going to include me. I thought I was going to get to be in part of it.
No.
Never.
It's only 3 members.
Well, that's fine. Chrono Trigger's all right.
It's only 3 members, sorry. But the enemies are also moving around on the map. So, like, if you're using explosives or, like, line attacks, you can wait until the enemies line up and you can hit multiple of them at a time. So, it's one of those, like, you get that, and then it's this time travel story. You're going back in time, and as you do stuff, it fixes stuff in the future, and you can start opening up more things.
Which is like Chrono Cross, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved Chrono Cross.
See, you should check out my video. We never surpassed Chrono Trigger on YouTube.
We're gonna edit out every single mention of Lee's YouTube channel. We don't get to drop it anymore.
Yeah. But
okay.
And to be fair,
you didn't drop any last time. So.
To be fair to Chrono Trigger, it doesn't have a developed villain either.
It is not. It's just an alien.
It's an alien that lands on Earth
Which is Earthbound, too.
honestly, it's an alien that's there to feed. And that's basically it. You don't get anything else for it. It's just this giant destructive force.
It doesn't even have a dialogue.
No, it just screams.
You know what does have a semi-developed villain? Tales of Fantasia.
You know, I've never played
Tales of
never played
Fantasia
Tales
is
of Fantasia.
really good. I can't remember anything about it though. Like I
It's pretty.
only played through like half of it. So
The
It
villain
was a
is that,
super big Super Nintendo game.
yeah.
the villain is that main angel, and the whole idea was that he was keeping the worlds separate because they were colliding together. Remember?
Yeah, it was really cool. It started off with the last boss fight, which is always cool, I think. It's like you just turn the game on, it's like you fight the last boss and he sends you back in time without your powers. And then
that's cool.
and then you play through the game to get up to that point.
So that's not Tales of Fantasia at all.
Like, what game are you playing? Like,
All right, so in 96, what we got in 96?
96, we get some more heavy hitters with Mario RPG, which was Nintendo and Square teamed up to make a turn-based Mario game. We get Wild Arms.
wow.
I know nothing about Wild Arms, never played it.
It's a Western.
That's it. That's all the important RPGs that came out at that time.
And we get the release of Pokemon Green and Blue.
Nobody's ever played Pokemon Green.
Poor Wild Arms, man. No wonder Wild Arms didn't stand
Yeah,
much of a
Wild
chance.
Arms just got overshadowed that year
got stumped.
hard.
Which it was the first RPG that had fully 3D combat. As I recall.
That's interesting.
Wild
Yep.
Arms?
Yep.
How?
Like the battlefield was 3D.
I am
Was
looking
it
that up.
isometric?
And I have some
No?
thoughts about Pokemon,
Was
but
it
you guys
full
keep
3D?
talking about Mario.
The characters were not.
It was 2D sprites, but you have like a 3D area to move around
Well,
in.
it was
or-
3D characters when you're in a battle.
Oh, okay.
3D characters, 3D battlefield, but outside the battlefield, you were on your sprites.
Oh, okay.
Like pre-rendered sprites, as I recall.
Like this.
Yes. So it was the first one to have that.
Now that's in. Is that for PlayStation?
PlayStation 1.
Oh.
Holy cow!
Yeah, Wild Arms
Holy crap! Was the PlayStation
in
Out?
96, yes.
when
96.
Pokemon released and all
Yeah.
that? Oh
Sup-
my god!
The Super Nintendo.
shit blurs together.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, PlayStation and the 64 both came out in 96, I think.
Holy crap!
We got Pokemon
Wow.
Red and Blue
Wow.
in 97 or 98.
It had to be 98.
It was 98 because I got them for my 10th birthday.
America
or 10th
didn't get
Christmas.
Pokemon until 98.
Okay. All right. I knew it was like either the year after or another year, but I know that's when they were releasing they were really pushing the Game Boy Color at the time.
I guess I should clarify, like, all these years are their initial release when they first came out, so that would be, like, Japanese release.
Yeah.
So,
RPG is so good. I think it's one of
I
the
know
best.
Mario.
The Chrono Trigger and Mario RPG and Earthbound are all three of some of the best paced RPGs I've ever played.
I did not play Mario RPG. Didn't know it existed when it first came out. It went until I went in college, and my friend was like, "One of my favorite games was Mario RPG," and I was like, "What the heck is that?"
Mario
And
RPG
then
is great.
I downloaded a completely legal copy.
Yes, we all do.
Did not download. Went to the
I
store
went to the
and purchased
store
it.
and purchased a completely
Nintendo
legal
could
copy.
get their money.
And I played it nonstop while I was in college until I beat it. I was like, I love this. This is
It's so
fantastic.
Yeah, it also added in something new for your turn-based combat in timed hits.
The time hits.
So whenever you attack an enemy, you could press the attack button again, and it would boost your attack. Like you'd get an extra hit. And you could do the same on defense. Whenever they hit, you could hit your defense button, and you would get extra defense for
Yeah,
the
and
hit.
I remember having to do the jumps, and you get multiple jumps as you
Yeah.
Do
stand on
that
top.
increased engagement
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
like 1,000
Instead
fold
of
in
just
combat.
just spamming A or just hitting the button and looking away and letting you
Speaking
guys do
of,
your
it's
stuff.
like the upcoming one, what is it, Sea of Stars, is combining like Chrono Trigger's combo text with the timed hits of Mario RPG.
Have you seen Sea
And
of
that looks
Stars?
fantastic.
No.
Oh, you should check out my YouTube video.
I walked right into it. I walked right into it.
Oh,
I'm not answering any questions you asked me for the rest of the damn.
I think
Who
that's
invited you back? Like, why are you back?
Is that the title of the episode? JRPGs. Have you seen one?
Sing Lee's YouTube.
it's like I will go back and play these games and put it, make a video.
So looking at so again with the JRPG title, looking us talking about JRPG, would you just looking at Mario RPG, would you associate that with the JRPG title? Just looking at that compare set Mario RPG next to Final Fantasy, next to, you know, something like Pokemon Blue. You know, set that next to something like the Pokemon games and how different just aesthetically those three games are.
They're different, like graphically and design wise.
I mean, gameplay for Pokemon's different than all of those. But when you look at Final Fantasy and Mario RPG, gameplay is fairly similar, party based, turn based.
I think I see what you're saying, man. Because like, I don't know, like it is a JRPG, but Super Mario RPG feels
very
different, but it's still got the pacing of a RPG, like a JRPG, and some of the same story tropes.
Yeah, well, I think with Super
just
Mario,
that is a more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Sense.
I think the point I'm trying to get at is like the Super Mario RPG. You could take the bones of it, like the skeleton of it, and slap Final Fantasy characters on there, and I think you'd be okay.
Yeah,
like it would port the same. And it's like that is. Like you'd have changed some wording, right? You know,
right.
Mario, but if you just take the skin of that is a turn based. We're a team. We're going through this thing to get the big
right.
bad guy.
Like, I know Pokemon was.
And
a
Pokemon's
little different in this area, but you're still building a team and leveling them up and going after a certain goal.
Yeah, still
it's
turn-based.
just turned a different way from like the heavy storytelling of they get heavy storytelling later, but I mean these were just.
I mean, it's a JRPG except you force all of your team members to be with you.
It's dogfighting
for you.
It's dogfighting simulator, and I love it.
Oh, I always call it a chicken spice simulator. So
Yeah, the same thing.
that's going to be a video eventually.
The Pokemon one, we are gonna do an episode on Pokemon, and we might go 5 hours because I will talk forever. We gotta maybe have Chris talk on that too because he'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
I had a point and it just completely evaded me.
All right. Moving on. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll move on. We'll skip over 97. Nothing important happened in 97.
I do want to point something out here.
Okay.
Like Mario RPG was definitely a time
You
too.
did a
Like
video on Mario RPG.
well, I think it is actually maybe.
Now that you mentioned it, Josh.
So you wanted to point something out?
Mario RPG, like graphically, lovely for the Super Nintendo, but this is also when Wild Arms and the PlayStation 1's out. And
Right.
Nintendo was still pushing and being like, we're fine with like their graphics.
Well, I mean, you look at Pokemon Green and Blue. I mean, this is for the original, block brick Game Boy, but I mean, the sprites for those compared to the American release, they're just so. I mean, they're very like you see a Pokemon Green sprite, and at least for me, like I can immediately tell that's Pokemon Green. Like there's no overlap from the initial Pokemon release to the Americanized release of Red and Blue. Those initial games. And I remember getting Pokemon Green and playing through it and it being just completely Japanese, and had it on the N64, like where you could plug your Game Boy game into the N64 cartridge and then that played on the TV. And just going through and like, okay, I'm gonna hit that. I'm gonna hit things until I get the right selection that pushes me through the game. Where I need to go. But just being so blown away by the difference in the sprites and the.
Well, I mean, I actually like the Mario RPG sprites more than I do.
I understand.
But I mean, it's the polygon. They went to a 3D. They went to a 3D method, and it's more polygon
They
rather
also
than the.
wanted a more realistic look on some of them. I'm not saying Wild Arms is, but some of the newer ones wanted a more realistic look, and with polygons, that just doesn't age well.
It didn't.
And these guys were pushing like Mario RPG. I don't know if you know this. It's a completely different cart inside. When you open it up, it doesn't look like the Super Nintendo games.
Okay.
Yeah,
They're just pushing the limits of the system.
Yeah, new hardware inside this Super Nintendo cart.
Super Nintendo was 16.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
I think Tales of Fantasia was a huge game, like meg-wise, but I don't know if it had. I don't think it had any kind of special hardware. But you can't reproduce Mario RPG basically.
Okay.
I know this because I've tried.
No, he hasn't.
He made a video about it.
Probably.
I'm going to.
Okay. So nothing important happened in 97.
Skip.
Right.
There was a little game. Go ahead and tell everybody what the little game that came out.
There's a little bridge.
It's called Grandia.
Grandia came out in 97, and then it completely overshadowed the release of this other game.
I thought I would mention Grandia. It's one of those. It actually is fully 3D. Like you have your characters and they'll run around. It still is turn based, but you have to select the enemy, and your character moves up to them to make the attack.
I think it's beautiful. 3D backgrounds and 2D sprites on top of it.
Yeah, it was. I didn't really play it, but from what I've seen of it, it's interesting.
I think that's Zach. Our buddy Zach's favorite RPG.
Yeah.
But leads the devil out of it.
Also, there was a game called Final Fantasy VII that came out at that time.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII also came out in 97.
What was the game?
Final Fantasy 7.
Final Fantasy.
I've never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Didn't even know there was a 7. I thought they went straight to 8.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross 8.
Yeah, it's like
I liked 8.
I will-
It's all right. Anyway, Final Fantasy 7.
I will make. I enjoy Final Fantasy 7 for what it is.
Would you like for
And-
me to sing its praises? I will.
And I will say it is one of the most important RPGs of ever. Just it is. It's not the best to me. It came out at a time with the marketing and everything. It was able to appeal to a wider audience. It brought more people in. It had good story elements. It had a good developed villain. A lot of your party kind of sucked though. Tifa was an enabler. Barrett was a racist stereotype. Yuffie and
I mean, is this as opposed to the ninja dude in Final Fantasy VI?
right. I'm not saying the other ones aren't. It's just
I'm pretty sure there's some dudes in Dragon Quest that got the
Oh my goodness.
Oppo.
I'm not saying the others aren't. It's just one of those.
Mr. Popo, man.
It's just one of those. Everywhere you go, everyone will sing the praises of 7. But I mean, you need to step back and take a look at it.
Yeah.
It is one of the, honestly, arguably the most important RPG.
I think it's a good
Arguably.
game. I think it's a good game, but yeah, it gets more praise than it deserves. It's the same thing as Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I love Ocarina of Time, but everybody's like, you get Zelda fans who are like, Ocarina of Time is the greatest game of all times. And it's
I
like,
don't agree at all.
it's not the
I
greatest
don't
game.
agree.
It's a great game, but it's hard to say it's the greatest game.
Seven's not my favorite either.
It's not my favorite.
either.
It's not my favorite Final Fantasy. I will say it is one of the better Final Fantasies in general.
I think when you say
together.
Final Fantasy though,
People think
that comes to mind.
Yeah.
7,
That
8, maybe 10.
7, I would say
9,
7
like
and
from
10.
7 is when they started.
When
I'd
you
say
say Final Fantasy, I think, why isn't this the last one?
Yeah, I'd say 7
Why
and
is that
10
so
are probably
weird?
the two most recognizable ones. 7
Yeah.
and 10. But I mean, that's why I would call 7 probably the most recognizable, because if you say Final Fantasy, everybody knows 7, and it brought a ton of people in. And I mean, from 97, 98, and 98 on after 7, I mean, there was just a absolute ton of RPGs because of it.
Yeah,
Vast
it was so
majority of them sucked because people were just trying to play off of it.
Shadow Madness, the Final
But-
Fantasy VII killer. Do you remember Shadow Madness?
I remember
Nobody
Legend
does.
of Dragoon. Legend of Dragoon.
That's pretty good one,
I
actually.
love it.
That's a 99.
Yeah, Legend of Dragoon is really good.
Yeah, we're gonna move through. We're approaching our mark,
Yeah.
so we'll keep going.
We're at the halfway mark.
We're definitely not the.
Well, I mean, honestly,
on
like,
the list.
no, I mean, like everything from here on is just like new stuff, and I mean, it's just stuff that.
That's not a bad spot to stop, honestly. Final Fantasy VII is kind of ushering in a whole new era
Yeah.
of this stuff.
It does, but
I like to do some
I feel
a couple
like
contemporaries.
I feel like stopping at like 2000 on
Okay.
was because like Final Fantasy 9 and Paper Mario came out that year, and
then
then you
9/11.
start getting. Yeah. Yeah.
And then 9/11 ruined RPGs.
And then you start getting some wild stuff.
Everybody knows what games they were playing when those planes hit the tower.
But yeah,
I was in class.
Suikoden 2, certainly much more favorable nowadays than it was when it first came out, actually.
really.
Yep.
I don't remember when it came out.
It got kind of like mediocre
It came
reviews.
out in 98.
I played it when it came out.
I mean, I was there, but
I really enjoyed it, but it was like
Terribly.
it wasn't until like more recently, or I guess in the last 15 or 20 years, that people went buck wild over it.
I've seen some people play it, but I've never played it myself.
I mean, I've played some of the other Suikodens, and I mean, they were pretty solid. But
What's the gameplay like? What is the story
It's a
of it? What
JRPG.
is it? Is it? That's
No.
crazy. Shut up. What is?
Its claim to fame is like there's like 100 characters you can recruit,
Okay.
Yeah.
which is that had never happened before, especially not in Pokemon.
Yeah, you can't catch over 151.
Suikoden is just Pokemon, but with real people. You're
That's
just
not-
capturing them and putting them in your bar.
That is
I don't
not
know why
inaccurate.
You're
Now
on
that
my
I think
team.
I might have actually played that.
There's other
What was that for?
PS1. There's
no idea.
Suikoden 1 and 2 was on PS1. 3, 4, and 5 was on PS2.
What's the other one you have there with Sweet from 98?
Xenogears.
So I've not played that.
Xenogears is one of those, like, they made so far up into the game and they wanted to, like, kind of rush the last little bit and not fully do their budget, so the last half of the game is
Not considered as favorably.
it's not. There's a lot of it that's just a guy in a chair telling you the story because he's been like captured, set, or whatever. And
Yep. I'm in an RPG group, and like these guys just roll on about this stuff, and I love hearing these guys talk about RPGs. And there's everybody knows so much about all this stuff, and so many people in that group, in this incredibly active group. Xenogears is the best RPG of all time. And that's new for me to see that stuff. So I'm like, maybe now I should check that out.
I've heard so much about Xenogears.
I've heard that it is fantastic as far as like story goes. It's just once you hit
wrong.
that later half. It's just once you hit that latter half of the game, everything falls off because they wanted to rush it out. And I think that is doing this part Final Fantasy VII's fault. Like it came out, and I think it's the same company. And they wanted to get another one out as fast as possible.
Get this. Xenogears was the story for Xenogears was going to be Final Fantasy VII. Yep, and then Final Fantasy, the people, directors...
That's the context, I think, that I've heard about Xenogears.
It's the same company owns both.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is too dark to be Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Because it's like, God. Did you say God? I mean, like, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's the same company, different development teams. And I think it's due in part to Final Fantasy VII coming out and being so successful, and this one's still being in development. It's like, we got to get it out. We got to...
Yeah.
This is like existential light. Final Fantasy VII, where people go, who am I? What's my identity? Xenogears is like, question everything you know, apparently.
Yeah.
So, when I think about this, I think of Evangelion, honestly, because it has that same sort of setup, and then they also kind of ran flat on money, is what I heard, right? Mm-hmm. Near the end, and it was like, well...
Yep, they were both developed by Squaresoft. So.
Yeah. And again, Square and Enix hadn't combined
Merged.
yet.
Now, see, in 99, you got Legends Dragoon.
Yeah.
And I want to say something about Legends Dragoon. So, Legends Dragoon is the reason that I cannot do purely story in RPGs nowadays, and why I spend 78 hours going through all the side quests in Skyrim before I do the main quest, because friggin' Legends of Dragoon,
Stardust.
if you did not explore every nook and cranny and do all the stuff, you would miss a gem, and you would have somebody in your party that would not have their Dragoon transformation.
Till Disc 4. He gets it in Disc 4.
You know who I'm talking about, right? The yellow Dragoon.
Yeah, it's for Kongal.
Yeah.
The P Dragoon.
And you would go, and that was like in Disc 2. Maybe not even Disc 2. I think Disc 1 you could miss it.
Yeah, you go into that area in Disc 1, and I think in Disc 2, like far after that, you gain him as a member towards the middle or towards the end, and you have the option to go back to that town, but why would you? There's nothing there. Except for that Dragoon spirit. And you can just go back. You can go back and buy
You
it.
would miss it.
Troll.
You know what I remember about Legends of Dragoon? Watching Cody play, and he'll be in a battle, and there's this gigantic meteor come down, and it smashes into your party and just obliterates the ground, and then it shows your character, and it's like, miss.
Like, one of my favorite things is like this big dragon comes down, picks somebody up, throws them into the ground. They leave this big trench of a crater at the end, and they just stand up, miss.
It's so good.
I remember the commercial. Nigel, he cut my head off again.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a not because the RPGs were serious business. It was like Final Fantasy VII, super serious business, and then this comes out and it was kind of funny.
It's funny, but it had a more serious tone the farther you got into it.
The game does, but like just the commercial was kind of goofy.
Which is weird, because like 96, 97 was when they started getting to, like, which I don't know, probably closer to 98. They started getting into the extreme mode, and everything was wacky and extreme. So,
but
which I miss. Like, I miss a lot of the Nintendo commercials with like the wackiness they had on.
Legend of Dragoon also added in a new combat feature for their
Which was awesome.
turn-based, and that was the additions. I don't recall it being in one beforehand, but it was basically whenever you went up to attack your enemy, a button prompt would come up, and you could hit X again at a timed hit, and you would get an additional hit. But as your character done the additions and leveled up, the edition itself would level up, gain more power, like do more damage or get more SP for your
Now,
Dragoon.
did that not function the same as like Mario RPGs? Double hit?
Sort of. It sounds similar.
Or was it
It's-
like combos where you'd hit
it's
different?
advancing
I'm trying
off
to
of that
remember.
because Mario RPG
That's-
was everything was just a
20
single hit. Like you just walk up.
25 years ago. I'm trying to remember.
Mario RPG was a single hit. You walk up, you hit the button once,
Yeah.
they hit a second time.
But this would combo change.
Dragoon
Right.
had combos up to like 8 or 9 hits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So those actually made me really nervous. Like that cranked my anxiety up, dude. Those little
And
speeding boxes. I'm like,
to get
Mario and Luigi. So speaking of Mario taking things from that, if you ever played for the Nintendo DS, the one where Mario and Luigi were babies,
partners in time.
that
Partners in
one,
Time.
Partners in Time, it had that mechanic where you could chain multiple different things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I mean, that's probably really just an advancement off Mario RPG's system. But it also adds in the enemies.
Engagement.
Yeah, the enemy can counterattack in the middle of it, and you instead of pressing X, you have to press circle, or you get hit back, and your combo cancels.
That's cool.
That is actually interesting, like the enemy counterattacking and changing the button.
Negative thing. I forgot about this game.
Oh,
Battles take forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
I watched Zach play one. It was like 2 minutes and 31 seconds for a random encounter, and I was like, 2 minutes and 31 seconds.
What you gotta do?
You busy?
No, you got a Legend of Dragoon. You gotta save the world.
I'm playing Octopath Traveler where it's like if I'm out of combat, if I'm not out of combat in 40 seconds, I'm mad.
My parents would have unplugged the system if I was like, hold on after this battle, and I'm in the middle of a fight.
Oh, I was in boss fights on Dragoon that it was like 30 plus minutes.
It's unreal. I mean, for a big boss fight, that's cool. But for like random encounters, that's unreal. That's just
But it's also, at least it's more engaging of a combat
It
system.
is.
very, very, very true.
I mean, if it was just mash A, everyone would hate it.
Yeah.
See, I'm coming from Pokemon where I'm gonna be in combat with Arceus throwing 76 Ultra Balls for the next hour and a half, and I'm gonna miss him, and he's gonna kill himself when he struggles to death. So I'm gonna reset and continue that. So 2 minutes, whatever, 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that is a negative, and I mean, it's the same thing on some of the other ones. Your characters are stereotypes, like pretty heavy, and I mean, there's some very stereotypical like RPG tropes popping up, like.
this
Like, I'm
Point to the times and
I'm your dad from the past.
Legend of Dragoon, like very recent development with that being re-released on the PlayStation. That's been a really interesting story.
Yeah.
Because it released and everybody was super excited. People have been like pining for this game to be released again. It didn't get any kind of special up treatment or anything.
It's just a port.
It's just a port. And then there was actually glitches and stuff with it. But once they started fixing that stuff, people really enjoyed it. And like I'm not gonna play. I was like, you speed up the battles a little bit. We'll talk about it. But it's really cool to see like people clamoring for this stuff, and actually the company's responding.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember it
It's
remake
nostalgic, man. People want to go back to the
Probably-
good old days.
Probably 15, 20 years ago, Legend of Dragoon wasn't really looked upon as fondly as
No.
it is now.
No, absolutely. Now
Oh,
it's
yeah, no.
people love it. It's just
I mean, 15, 20 years ago, it was like a $10 game.
yes.
Like
It's forever. It's so cheap.
Nobody wanted it. And
Definitely not a $10 game now.
no, it's like 50 or 60 now.
Right. So what's next? We're closing in on our time here. We want to hit about an hour and a half, so we got about 15 minutes.
Well,
I figure
fill in or-
instead of going over like all the RPGs coming out after that, you can just talk about any of them, like your experience
Let's
with
hit
RPGs.
2000.
Like-
Let's hit 2000.
well, I'd like to know what everybody's favorite RPG.
Okay.
JRPG.
Well, Lee had something to.
I was just gonna say that apparently has sold 2 million copies.
The re-release of Legend of Dragoon.
Oh,
Pretty
wow.
good.
I know
That's
it's like
really good.
it sold relatively well when it came out. Like it wasn't like it's not a hidden gem or something that everybody missed. It came out, sold well, and then it just died for about 10 years. And then people started liking it again, and then here recently it's hit it again.
Mhm.
Now, to be perfectly fair, though I like Legend of Dragoon better, I would say system wise, story wise, and just like overall game wise, Final Fantasy VII is a better game.
Oh yeah.
It's just personally, I like I like Dragoon better personally, but
Put those together, but I mean, we're looking at this the timeline. You get Final Fantasy IX that came out in 2000, and that was if we're talking about if we're getting into favorites, what Aaron would talk to my favorite JRPG, and then if we're throwing Pokemon in there, the Pokemon games have to be, but I don't want to pick just one. I love them all equally. So if I'm going to pick one, Final Fantasy IX is my favorite.
Yeah, pick one.
No, you got to pick one. It's got to be a Pokemon. Yeah, Final Fantasy IX is my favorite. That Final Fantasy IX was the first and only Final Fantasy that I played from the beginning to end myself. I watched people play 7. I played the crap out of 8, but never finished it. And never played 10. Yeah, I played 11, but that was an MMO.
Yeah. You played 14 with us.
Yeah, I played the shit out of 14. But like as far as single player Final Fantasy 9, that was, and then the one for the DS, the re-release of 3, I played but I never finished. But I played the crap out of it. But Final Fantasy 9 is the only one that I ever played completely all the way through. Just absolutely adored.
What, Julie?
I was kind of torn, but I think I'm probably just going to have to say Earthbound, honestly. I've played, like, Earthbound's a game I can pick up and play anytime. I could go home tonight, start Earthbound, and be happy as a clam. You just sit and play. And then when I beat it, I could turn it off, turn it back on, and start again. It's gross how much I like that game.
I said it earlier, I got to stick with Chrono Trigger. It's probably my favorite one, just in general.
Final Fantasy Tactics is my next.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough pick, but I'd have to go Super Mario RPG.
That's fair, man.
One of my favorite ones.
These are all just bangers.
And I mean, Final Fantasy 9 is like one of my favorite Final Fantasy. Like, it's between it and 6 for me, honestly. And I mean, I've heard the argument that somebody made that was, if you want the best put together Final Fantasy, like mechanically, like visuals hold up, like the story is good, like the story is serviceable, they offer Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
If you want to go back and have one that actually speaks to you and is like good and other areas, you'll have to play other ones. It's just 9 is, it doesn't break any new ground, but it does everything super well.
It does. I love Final Fantasy's 9 is one of my favorite ones by far, and I love the characters of 8, but still 9 is my favorite.
I love the like my big favorite thing from 8 was the summons. Like 8's summons were so cool, just stylistically. Yeah, I love that. And the what's the card game?
Triple Triad.
The Triple Triad. I love Triple Triad.
I wanted to say, like, it's one of the ones that's like, I could go save the world or play Triple Triad.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I spent most of my time in 8 games playing Triple Triad.
I only have like 2 good things to say about 8, and it's like it's got good music and Triple Triad.
Yeah.
I didn't like anything else.
And those sprites, are you kidding? Have you seen that sprite of Leon?
To be fair, that's about the best they could do at the time.
That was you remember the engine they were touting? It was like the emotion engine or something in Final Fantasy VIII. They're trying to push, and it's like it's just a graphically.
It has so many flaws.
They were like talking about having this graphical, like this emotion engine to better capture the emotions of characters, but it's like it's just crap.
I don't remember any of that.
Blowing smoke, dude.
Well, I think that's going to round us up.
What? Paper Mario?
Oh yeah,
Do you want to talk about Paper Mario?
I do.
All right,
You should check out my
Don't look at you. It's all.
Never mind.
It's mostly anti-Semitism.
Actually, when Paper Mario came out, I was extremely disappointed that it wasn't Super Mario RPG. But then I ended up loving Paper Mario.
Honestly, when I seen the commercials for it, I being a dumb kid about the time, I was like, looked at it, those papers stupid, I want it. And then I ended up playing it. I was like, this game's fantastic. Give me more.
I didn't know in Japan it was called Mario Story. I was like, that's really cute.
Oh, I know.
Real quick, you have KOTOR on here as a JRPG.
Arguably
Arguably a JRPG.
Okay. Why?
It's more to do with the system and everything. Like the system and aesthetic of the storytelling falls under JRPG and is made by a Japanese company. Star Wars itself, sure, is not.
Yeah, KOTOR stands for Knights of the Old Republic. If anybody
It's just,
I would definitely like if you just asked me, hey, is KOTOR JRPG or WRPG? I'd go, that's a Western.
I thought it was called Knockout the Old Republic.
KOTOR
knock out the old.
Yeah, KOTOR is the bridge. Honestly, like it's skirting the fence on that.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay. That's when we start blurring the lines.
Yeah.
Right. We get into KOTOR. We get into 2003. We're blurring
It's
lines.
technically a JRPG, but not really. But
So it was literally Western developed, right?
I think the company
Bioware.
was
BioWare, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, KOTOR. Yeah, that's
I'm pretty sure BioWare is Western because they're the ones that did Dragon Age.
were they Bioware originally when they made it.
Mm-hmm.
BioWare, Aspyr, EA, Obsidian Entertainment, BioWare was.
Yeah, they're absorbed by EA right now, but they're technically still BioWare.
Yeah, they were BioWare initially. Released, it was July 15th, 2003 in North America. Developed by BioWare.
Yeah.
So that was
I remember-
not a Japanese company.
remember
You've
we
lied to
talked-
all these people.
I think we looked it up, and I think it was like a Japanese branch helped on one of these. I can't remember if it was KOTOR or
One of the
not.
people that wrote some dialogue for KOTOR went to Japan.
But it's,
Well,
it's,
we're including that in the JRPG. Boy, our list is going to expand out.
But really, like, what was
Monopoly's the best JRPG.
Well, I think that is the bridge because, like, what was
Yeah.
a Western?
that's the
Right.
That's the big thing. Is at the time, it's still kind of taking because I mean it's not completely turn based,
Right.
but it's still slightly, and it's still telling a RPG style
It has
story,
RPG element.
and it's RPG elements.
So what's like the first Western developed RPG? Do you guys have any clues on that?
Honestly,
I
if
bet
you're going
they will.
turn based, I have no idea. But I mean, Ultima and Wizardry were Western developed.
Well, then we suck at it.
So Ultima and Wizardry were Western developed. We started with them for JRPGs, and turns out, plot twist, they weren't even JRPGs at all.
Well, that's the thing was D&D.
Yeah.
D&D's Western, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, all the JRPGs are started off basing their system off of that, and then just kind of advanced from there.
I think Western. I think
More stuff.
Fallout and junk like that. You know, it's,
Yeah, there's more stuff where you have like real time combat,
yeah.
and I mean, KOTOR tried to do real time combat, but they still.
I've not played it at all, dude. I've never turned it on.
I've never played it. I just kind of looked at videos of it. And
Holy
it's-
crap.
Like it's arguably stylized, but it's more Western.
So this is from GuinnessWorldRecords.com, so take everything with a grain of salt. It's the first computer-based RPG was Dungeons and Dragons, and this is American RPG. Dungeons and Dragons is an entirely text-based game, so this isn't what we're talking about. This is a neat little bit of lore. An entirely text-based game based on D&D, that based on Dungeons and Dragons, that was developed at Southern Illinois University in 1974.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
So it was a mud.
Yeah. Interesting.
And Ultima 3 is what I'm getting here.
Yeah.
The
Ultima.
first modern CRPG.
I would say Ultima is really the first Western style.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Ultima and Wizardry or that. So yeah.
And that's JRPGs really base themselves off of the systems of Ultima and Wizardry.
Yeah.
So I mean, it went Western to JRPGs, and then we've just kind of like muddied the pool of all this, and they've just all kind of went off on their own.
I guess our big point that we can come away with is like the JRPG / Western RPG differentiation is that's like a purely personal thing.
Really,
Thing for the for a
really,
big
yeah.
portion. Like
For me personally, I would rather label stuff, like I said, to start with turn-based, tactics, action, I guess whatever you would call it, because you can do like the D&D style that's not quite any of those, but because I think Pathfinder just released an RPG here recently. I don't remember what it was called. It's been a couple years ago, really.
Kingmaker.
Maybe.
so okay, so I think that's a good point. We're about to hit directly on our 1.5 hour mark, so that's a good point to wrap it up. Guys, thanks for sitting down. Thanks for talking about video games like a bunch of nerds that we are. We'll go around and just ask where everybody can find anybody online if they will look them up.
Don't worry,
Lee, you're
Lee's not
going
mentioned.
last.
Lee's not
Lee,
mentioned.
you're going last, and you get 10 seconds. So, Aaron, if people want to contact you, where do they holler at you at?
On this podcast. That's it.
It's no online presence. Cody?
I mean, currently I'm just doing the podcast. I've taken a break off Twitch for a while, so
We miss you.
You can still plug your Twitter.
So Cody's,
we'll get to that if I bring it back. I don't want to plug it and not do it, so.
yeah. Okay. I'm pretty similar with these guys. I don't have a big online. We're really just doing this segment for Lee, but I want him to sit silently for a little bit.
Just want him to sit here and
Just want him to sit and wait.
stew.
All right, and Lee, where can the people find you on the internet?
Play me in.
Drum roll, please.
twitch.tv/pixelbroly, and youtube.com/pixelbroly, and Instagram @pixelbroly, Facebook @pixelbroly, you name it. Oh, TikTok @pixelbroly. So all these things, like if you search Pixel Broly, not Broly like Dragon Ball Z Akira Toriyama stuff, but Pixel Broly.
PIXELBROLEE. Pixel Broly.
BROLY.
No,
Don't spell it.
people call me Pixel Broly all the time.
Pixel Broly.
Pixel
All right, guys.
broccoli.
That's it. We're out. Y'all good.
After that.
Take care.
Hey.